She wrote the songs everyone loves, but never let anyone see her face. While the world applauded other voices, Chloe stayed hidden. Behind the curtains. Behind the walls. Behind her fear. Until one night, the star loses her voice. And the microphone is left empty. And the question isn't whether Chloe will sing. The question is, what happens when someone who's spent her whole life being invisible is forced to be seen? Welcome to Lost Stories in Lyrics, the place where emotional stories will touch your heart. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and smash that subscribe button. Chloe Kingston had spent her entire life writing stories that were never hers to live. By 28, she had 17 platinum records to her name, 12 Grammy nominations, and a tiny apartment in West Hollywood that felt less like a home and more like an archive of forgotten melodies. The walls were covered in yellow post-it notes with half-finished lyrics, choruses scribbled on napkins, and an impressive collection of moleskine notebooks that held the secrets of her true identity. She was a ghostwriter. A name no one knew. A voice no one had ever heard. Every morning, Chloe woke up at 5:30, made coffee that was far too strong, and sat down at the upright piano that took up half her living room. Her fingers moved across the keys with the intimacy of someone who knew every note the way you know your own heartbeat. In that sacred silence before the city woke up, she built entire worlds, songs about love she had never lived, about courage she had never had, about a freedom she had never experienced. The routine never changed. She wrote, recorded demos in the makeshift home studio in her closet, sent the files to her manager, Marcus, and then watched from a distance as her creations came to life in other people's voices. Famous singers stepping onto stages in crystal dresses and practiced smiles, receiving applause for words Chloe had pulled out of her own soul in lonely, sleepless nights. She never complained. In fact, the arrangement seemed perfect. Because Chloe carried a secret she was more ashamed of than any failure, she was terrified of stages. Not normal nerves. Not the butterflies every performer feels. It was a paralyzing, visceral anxiety that turned her body to stone and her throat to dust whenever she imagined microphones, spotlights, and thousands of eyes fixed on her. When she was 16, she had tried. Once. Her high school hosted a talent show, and Chloe, encouraged by the music teacher who recognized her gift, signed up to sing an original song. She spent weeks practicing in her bedroom, imagining what it would feel like to finally share her voice with the world. But when her turn came and she walked to the center of the auditorium, something went terribly wrong. The lights felt blinding. The silence of the crowd pressed down on her like concrete. Her heart raced so fast she was sure everyone could hear it. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Just a strangled, pitiful whisper. Some students laughed. Others whispered. The teacher stood up, concerned, but Chloe was already running out of the auditorium, tears burning down her face. She never tried again. Instead, she built walls. Invisible walls that kept her safe, hidden, protected from judgment and exposure. She became a shadow, a ghost in the back rooms of the music industry. And for years, it worked. She made money. She earned respect from producers and executives. She heard her songs on the radio and in commercials. Her mother, who had worked double shifts to pay for her piano lessons, was finally able to retire. Her younger brother finished college without student loans. But some nights, Chloe woke up in the dark with a tight chest, feeling like she was slowly disappearing. Like by living in the shadows for so long, she had turned into one. I was a ghost, she once wrote in her journal. But ghosts don't feel. And I still feel everything. It was Marcus who called that Tuesday in November, breaking her morning routine. I need you at the studio. Now, he said, skipping the usual greetings. His voice held something between excitement and panic. We have a situation. What kind of situation? Chloe asked, already feeling anxiety prickle at the base of her neck. The kind that can change everything. Please. Just come. The studio was 20 minutes from her apartment, but morning traffic turned it into 45. Chloe arrived to controlled chaos, technicians rushing around, phones ringing non-stop, and at the center of it all, Madison Cole, the pop star of the moment, sitting on a velvet couch with a devastated expression. Madison was everything Chloe was not: confident, radiant, magnetic. At 24, she had sold millions of records and sold out arenas worldwide. Her latest single, Unbreakable, which Chloe had written during a sleepless night 6 months earlier, had been #1 for 9 straight weeks. What happened? Chloe whispered to Marcus. He pulled her aside. Madison lost her voice. Completely. The doctor says it's severe laryngitis. She can't make a sound without risking permanent damage. And tonight's show? Marcus took a breath. It's the biggest show of her career. The Forum. 15,000 people. Live broadcast to 80 countries. Every major label executive will be there. The world tour starts next week. If we cancel. You can't cancel, Chloe finished. Exactly. He gripped her shoulders, and something in his eyes made her instinctively pull back. Chloe, you know these songs better than anyone alive. You wrote them. You know every note, every breath, every meaning behind every word. No, her voice went high and thin. No, Marcus. You know I can't. You can. You just have to sing one song. Just one. Unbreakable. 3 minutes and 42 seconds. Madison will come on later, the dancers will cover the transitions, backing vocals will fill in. You only have to be there for that one song. Are you insane? Panic rose in her throat like boiling water. I don't do stages. I never have. You know that. Chloe, Madison stood, walking toward her slowly. Her voice was hoarse and fragile. I know what we're asking. I would never ask if there were another option. But there isn't. We tried everyone. No one knows the show. No one had time to rehearse. And you're the only one who really understands these songs. Because I wrote them for myself, Chloe admitted, the words escaping before she could stop them. I wrote them about things I felt, and lived, and dreamed. And then I gave them to you because it was easier to let someone else live them for me. The silence that followed was heavy. Then this is your chance, Madison said gently. To finally live your own words. Chloe shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. You don't understand. It's not just fear. It's like my body shuts down. I can't breathe, I can't think, I can't. Then you'll pass out in front of 15,000 people, Marcus cut in, firm, but not cruel. And you know what will happen? Nothing. The world won't end. You'll wake up. You'll survive. But if you don't try, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what if. Chloe closed her eyes as the room spun. She thought of her mother's worn hands. Of all the nights she had poured her heart into songs no one knew were hers. Of the 16-year-old girl who had run off a stage, and how that girl was still inside her 12 years later. 3 minutes, she whispered. Just 3 minutes. Marcus smiled, relieved. Just 3 minutes. But as Chloe stared at the clock on the wall, counting the hours until the show, those 3 minutes felt like an eternity in which she would either face the greatest fear of her life, or disappear completely into the shadows she had built around herself. She was a ghost. But ghosts, she was starting to realize, don't live. They only haunt. And Chloe was tired of haunting. The next 6 hours blurred into frantic rehearsals, wardrobe changes, and shouted instructions from stage managers. Chloe was pushed into a makeshift dressing room where a team of makeup artists and stylists turned her into someone she barely recognized in the mirror. Gold shadow dusted her eyelids, her face was sculpted with surgical precision, and her brown hair was pinned into soft waves that fell over her shoulders. The dress they chose was silver, covered in tiny sequins that caught the light like stars. "You look beautiful," the makeup artist said, stepping back to admire her work. But all Chloe could see was a stranger staring back. The technical rehearsal took place on the empty stage at the Forum, with only a handful of technicians and musicians present. Even so, the moment Chloe stepped under the spotlights, her knees nearly buckled. The space was colossal, terrifying in its vastness. Row after row of empty seats stretched out like a dark abyss, and she could already imagine each one filled with faces, expectant, judgmental, waiting for her to fail. "Breathe," instructed the musical director, a gray-haired man named Derek with a patient expression. "We'll do this as many times as you need." No pressure. But there was pressure. Tons of it, crushing her chest. They played the intro to Unbreakable. The first chords echoed through the empty space, familiar as a prayer she had memorized. Chloe had written that song after a particularly painful breakup, when she felt like she would never be whole again. She had poured all that pain, and the strength that followed, into the lyrics, creating an anthem of resilience that millions had embraced. But now, in front of the microphone, the words vanished from her mind. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Just that same pathetic whisper from 12 years earlier, that strangled sound of defeat. "It's okay," Derek said gently, signaling the band to stop. "Let's try again. This time, close your eyes. Don't think about the space, don't think about the people. Just think about the story you were telling when you wrote it." Chloe nodded, swallowing hard. She closed her eyes as the music started again. This time, when her cue came, something small and fragile emerged. Her voice was shaky, off-key, but it was sound. It was something. Derek didn't stop her. He let her finish the first verse, imperfect as it was, and when she opened her eyes, he was smiling. "Now you're singing," he said. "Now we just have to get you to believe it." They repeated it 23 times. With each attempt, Chloe's voice grew a little steadier, a little more present. But the terror remained, pulsing under her skin like a second heart. She kept seeing that school auditorium, those laughs, that girl running away. At 7 p.m., 2 hours before the show, Marcus found her backstage. Chloe was sitting in a dark corner, knees pulled to her chest, trying to remember how to breathe normally. "You're going to do this," he said, sitting beside her on the cold floor. "I'm not." Chloe shook her head, silent tears streaking through her carefully applied makeup. "I'm going to go out there and freeze, and they'll film me freezing, and it'll be online forever. Everyone will see. Everyone will know I'm a fraud." "You're not a fraud. You're the most real person I know." Marcus sighed, staring up at the ceiling. "Do you know why your songs work? Why they touch millions of people? Because you're not afraid to put truth into them. You write about real pain, real fear, real hope. You've already been brave in every way that matters. Now you just have to take the last step. And if I can't, then you can't. And I'll still respect you for trying." At 8:40, Chloe heard the roar of the crowd as the doors of the Forum opened. Thousands of voices merging into a wave of anticipation. She stood frozen in the dressing room, looking at her reflection one last time. The stranger in the mirror looked confident, polished, ready. Inside, Chloe was falling apart. The show started at exactly 9. Madison appeared for the first 3 numbers, lip-syncing flawlessly while dancers and effects distracted from the lack of live vocals. The crowd was electric, unaware of the drama backstage. Chloe watched from a side monitor, nausea rising in her stomach. "You're on in 5, a stage assistant said, pressing a microphone into her hand. It felt unreal, like it was made of lead. For minutes, Chloe walked to the side of the stage, where darkness met light. From that angle, she could see everything: 15,000 faces lit by phone screens, spotlights slicing through the air, the center platform where she would have to stand, exposed from every angle. 3 minutes. Her heart was pounding so loudly it drowned out everything else. Her hands were shaking violently. The makeup artist ran over to fix the mascara that had smudged from her nervous tears. 2 minutes. Madison passed by and squeezed her hand. "You've got this," she mouthed, though her face betrayed concern. 1 minute. The stage went completely dark. The crowd screamed in anticipation. Chloe felt a hand on her back, gently pushing her forward. Her feet moved mechanically, carrying her to the market center stage, where a single spotlight would find her in seconds. She stood there in total darkness, invisible to the crowd, but knowing that in moments, everyone would see her. Thousands of eyes. Cameras broadcasting to millions more. The walls she had built around herself for 12 years, layers of protection, fear, and denial, felt like thin paper against what was coming. The first chords of Unbreakable began. The spotlight snapped on, revealing Chloe to the world. And for one endless, terrible second, she couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't do anything but stand there, frozen, as the crowd began to murmur in confusion. Who was that girl? Where was Madison? The music kept going, rushing toward her first line. Chloe looked out into the dark vastness beyond the lights and felt the old terror try to lock her in place again. She was back in that school auditorium. Back to that frightened girl. But then something shifted. She remembered the words she had written for that song, about breaking chains, about refusing to stay broken, about being unbreakable even when the whole world tells you you're fragile. She had written it for herself. And now, finally, she had to believe it. Chloe closed her eyes, lifted the microphone, and when her cue came, she sang. The first note came out shaky, almost swallowed by the weight of the instruments. But it was her voice, real, imperfect, alive. They tried to break me down, told me I would fall. Chloe kept her eyes closed through the first lines, shutting out the world. Every word was a battle, every breath a small victory. Her voice wavered on the higher notes, but there was something raw in it, something true no technically perfect singer could fake. It was the voice of someone who had lived every syllable she was singing. When she opened her eyes, she expected to see disapproval, confusion, or worse, indifference. But the crowd was completely silent, spellbound. 15,000 people had suspended their judgments and expectations and were simply listening. Not to the pop star they had come for, but to the girl who had poured her soul into those words. But I learned to stand, learned to rise above it all. Something began to shift inside Chloe. Not like a lightning strike, but like a slow sunrise. With each verse, the tightness in her chest loosened. The trembling in her hands eased. Her voice grew fuller, steadier, purposeful. She started to move, still timidly, letting the microphone capture not just her voice, but her breath, her vulnerability, her truth. The musicians behind her felt the change and played with more intensity, lifting her, carrying her. When the chorus came, Chloe finally let herself look straight into the crowd. And what she saw changed her forever. I'm unbreakable, unshakable. There were tears on the faces in the front rows. Phones were raised not just to record, but to light the space, a sea of glowing screens pulsing with the rhythm of the song. And then, as if by some silent agreement, voices began to join hers. First a few hundred, then thousands, until the entire forum was singing with her. They knew every word. Of course they did. Those were Chloe's words, written alone one sleepless night 6 months earlier. But now they weren't just hers. They belonged to everyone who had ever felt broken and chosen to rise again. To everyone who had built walls around their heart and dreamed of tearing them down. These walls I built so high, to keep the pain away. Chloe felt something inside her break, not painfully, but freely. Like invisible threads that had held her in place finally snapping. Every word she sang was a wall coming down. Every sustained note was a step out of the shadows she had hidden in for so long. She was no longer a ghost. She was there, solid, present, real. But now I'm breaking through, I'm breaking free today. The bridge arrived, the part she had written through tears, where all the emotion collapsed into one explosive moment. Chloe closed her eyes again, not from fear but from the need to feel everything fully. Her voice soared, strong and clear, reaching notes she hadn't even known she could reach. The band followed her, building a storm of sound around her. The drums thundered, the guitars cried, the keys layered the music until it felt like it was lifting her off the ground. She opened her arms, letting the song move through her, no longer fighting the moment but surrendering to it completely. Break these walls down, watch them crumble to the ground. And when she opened her eyes for the final chorus, Chloe didn't see a crowd of judging strangers. She saw people who understood. Who had their own walls, their own fears, their own quiet battles. She saw her story reflected in thousands of different faces, and finally understood why her songs touched so many lives. Because pain is universal. And so is courage. I'm unbreakable, I'm unbreakable. Chloe sang the last lines with everything she had. Her voice filled every corner of that massive space, carrying not just melody but years of broken silence, confronted fear, a girl finally finding her own light. The final note hung in the air for long seconds, echoing through the forum. When it finally faded, there was absolute silence. Then, like a wave crashing, the crowd exploded. The roar was deafening. 15,000 people on their feet, cheering, crying, applauding. Chloe stood there, stunned, barely able to process what had just happened. Tears streamed freely down her face, ruining her makeup completely, and she didn't care. For the first time in her life, she wasn't hiding. Madison ran onto the stage and wrapped Chloe in a fierce hug as the crowd kept cheering. "You did it!" she shouted over the noise. "You really did it!" The days that followed were a whirlwind. The video went viral overnight, racking up millions of views. Music critics wrote glowing pieces about the emotional revelation of a new star. Record labels flooded Marcus's phone with offers. Fans created pages for her all over social media. But Chloe wasn't interested in becoming the next big pop star. That wasn't her story. 2 weeks later, she was back in her apartment, sitting at her upright piano with a cup of coffee beside her. The walls were still covered in sticky notes and notebooks, but now there was something new among them. Photos from the night at the forum. Messages from people who had watched, telling her how she had inspired them. An email from her mother that she'd read 20 times, simply saying, "I always knew you shined." Chloe played the first chords of a new song. She was still a songwriter, that would never change. But now, sometimes, she accepted invitations to small, intimate shows. Coffee shops. Cozy theaters. Places where she could see people's eyes as she sang. Places where her voice didn't have to fill an arena, only reach a heart. She still felt nervous before every performance. She probably always would. But she had learned that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision not to let fear have the final word. The walls she had built around herself hadn't vanished completely. Some still stood, and maybe always would. But now there were doors. Windows. Openings that let light in and let her voice out. Chloe Kingston was no longer a ghost. She was a survivor. An artist. A woman who learned that the truest kind of light doesn't come from massive stages or roaring crowds. but from finally having the courage to be seen. She finished writing the new verse and smiled at the words on the page. I was a ghost, haunting my own life. But ghosts don't bleed, don't breathe, don't fight. So I chose to live, chose to be seen. Chose to break these walls and finally be free. 3 minutes and 42 seconds had changed everything. Not because she became famous. Not because she proved anything to the world. But because she finally proved something to herself. That she was, and always had been, unbreakable. Enjoyed the video? Smash that like button and subscribe for more awesome stories. I'll be waiting for you in the next story.